Hi, I'm Wayne Caddy. I teach at the School of Artisan Food. I've been baking for 27 years. I represented Team GB in the Coupe du Monde and the Masters de la Boulangerie too. I'm going to share with you some top baking techniques and recipes to take your baking to the next level. Okay, so today I'm going to make naan breads. I'm going to show you how simple they are to make using flour, buttermilk, milk and water, a little bit of butter, cumin, coriander seeds, salt and yeast. Mixing is the first stage for naan breads. It couldn't be more simple. Add all of the liquid to the flour. So in the liquid we've got buttermilk, milk and water. Then we add the butter, then the salt and the seeds, and then finally the yeast. Keep the yeast away from the salt at the initial stage of mixing. The salt, if it's weighed directly onto the yeast, will start killing the yeast cells. So always keep the yeast away from the salt. To start mixing, simply place your hand into the middle of the bowl with your fingers close together and gently start swirling around until all the liquid and flour is evenly combined. With your other hand you can turn the bowl, and really what we're looking for in this dough is for it to look smooth and combined together. So this will take about 5 minutes to get the ball formed into a nice smooth mass. So once we've got the dough combined and into a ball and no dry flour pieces left, we're going to switch to a different technique which is called around the clock. So we're taking the 12 o'clock piece, pick and stretch and down, and then 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock and so on. So pick and stretch, and we're forming the gluten. Keep doing the pick and stretch until you feel that there's a resistance in the dough and it starts tearing a little bit too much. So we're getting to this point now. So we stop there because we've developed the gluten as far as it wants to go at this stage. We're going to let it rest for about a minute before repeating around the clock, and we do this around about 10 times or until the dough becomes soft, silky, extensible but strong as well. Okay, so we've mixed the naan dough, we've used around the clock several times, and what we're looking for is a real smooth, silky feel to the naan dough. We can see it's extensible but strong. What you might also notice with the dough as well, when it's fully developed in the mixing stages, there's little pockets underneath the dough skin. So the naan dough should be soft, smooth, silky. Now, we're going to cover it up and leave it to bulk ferment for 2 hours at room temperature. Okay, so our naan dough has been bulk fermenting for about 2 hours at room temperature. I'm going to take the cover off and begin to scale the dough at 175 grams. So I'm going to use a scraper to gently remove the proved dough out onto the workbench. So we can see the dough's nice and lively, it's very aerated, which is great. We're going to cut these up into 170 pieces, and then we're going to shape it into a round. So take the 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, always stacking up in the middle, so we're building that middle up. And then the corners, stretch them again, over, and when we turn it back that way, the dough piece is nearly rounded. So the final step is to use a gated technique again, fingertips over fingertips, down onto the workbench, drag forward, turn 90 degrees, drag forward, turn 90, drag forward, turn 90, and drag forward, turn 90. And then what we have is a really tight dough ball that now needs to relax, so we're going to bench rest this. Now we can bench rest for a couple of hours and bake it on the day, or immediately after shaping this dough ball, we can place it into a covered tray and leave it in the refrigerator for up to 2 to 3 days before baking the naan bread dough. Our dough ball's now been fermenting for a couple of hours, and if you can see, it's become a lot gassier and more relaxed. This is what we're trying to do on bench rest so that we can stretch the naan out. So next we're going to pick the naan dough up and start stretching it out gently. We can see how easy it is to work with. Then hang it up to form a teardrop. And without using a rolling pin, we've pretty much shaped the naan bread. It's really important to shape naan breads with your hands and not a rolling pin, because we get a really open, bubbly texture by stretching it gently with our hands. If we use a rolling pin, then we rupture all the structure inside and get a dense naan bread. So it's really critical to shape using our hands. It's quite important to brush the naan bread before we bake it in the oven with either melted butter or clarified butter. So we use the baking board, stretch the naan bread onto the baking board, and then we've got some melted butter here. So what we're going to do, we've got a little bit of garlic in the butter as well, and we're just going to drizzle some butter over the top of the naan bread. Now this is really important we do this too. If we don't put any butter on top, we'll end up with a pita bread, so we'll have a pocket in the centre. Brushing butter on helps suppress the dough so it doesn't flare up in the oven. Typically naan breads are baked in a tandoor oven, which means clay oven. They're baked at very, very hot temperatures, often at around about 450 degrees Celsius. We haven't got that in our oven, but what we can do is turn the oven up to 260 degrees C and make sure that we've got an inverted tray that's been preheated for a long time. On this oven, we've got a setting of fan and grill combined. Right, let's get the naan bread in the oven. So the naan bread should take 3 to 4 minutes or until golden brown. So there we have it, a really wonderfully flinted naan bread with a pale background. The flinted pieces are almost charred. That's what we're looking for on a naan bread. This will give it great flavour. So finally, brush over a little garlic butter and add some fresh coriander. There we have it, a fantastic naan bread. All we need now is a great curry.